You're lying in bed, the blue light of your phone reflecting in your eyes. You see a headline or a tweet from the other side. You know the one. Suddenly, your chest tightens, your heart rate spikes, your thumb hovers ready to strike back. The world calls this being angry or uninformed, but neuroscience has a much more precise label for it: affective polarization. You aren't just reading a post, your brain has identified a predator in the tall grass. You feel this way because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do for 2 million years. It's not a bug in your thinking, it's a feature of your survival. In the next 30 minutes, we are going to look at the data that proves you aren't just losing your cool. We're going to explore how modern media turns basic in-group wiring into shared brain states called neural synchrony. We'll see why disagreement feels like a physical threat, and why your amygdala can't tell the difference between a hostile tweet and a tiger. If you've ever felt like the world is going insane, I'm going to show you the neurological blueprints of that insanity. By the end, you'll see why staying angry feels so rewarding, and why you are actually built for a depth of connection the modern world is trying to hijack. Notice the feeling next time you see a win for your side. It's not just a good job feeling. It's a rush. It feels like safety. Now compare that to when the other side wins. It feels like the floor is dropping out. This is the hallmark of affective polarization. It's not about how far left or right you are on a tax code or a climate policy. It's about how much you like us and how much you viscerally dislike them. Researchers define this as the growing gap between warm feelings for your party and cold, hostile feelings for the opposition. This emotional gap now explains more of your day-to-day behaviour than your actual political beliefs ever could. The world tells you that you should be a rational actor, weighing facts like a judge. But the data shows that politics has moved from the head to the heart, or, more accurately, to the survival centres of the brain. When you other someone, you aren't just disagreeing with their vote. You are subconsciously flagging them as immoral and dangerous. This fuels a willingness to discriminate socially and economically. It spills over into who you choose as neighbours, who you date, and even who you trust to do a job. You aren't being petty. Your brain is trying to simplify a complex world into safe and not safe. That is an efficient biological strategy, even if it's a social nightmare. Why does a party label matter so much? Because of social identity theory. Decades of research show that once humans identify with a group, they start favouring in-group members almost instantly. In famous experiments, researchers assigned people to groups based on something as meaningless as a coin flip. Even then, people favoured their own team and distrusted the others. Now, imagine that effect when the group label isn't a coin flip, but your religion, your race, your geography, and your core values all bundled into one political party. This is called social sorting, and it turns a political party into a high-stakes shortcut for people like me. Empirical work suggests that these identity dynamics are so powerful they can generate partisan-style hostility even without real policy disagreements. This is what science calls the minimal groups effect. When you see a viral outrage clip, your brain isn't processing a policy debate. It's processing a signal of their side versus our side. This triggers a disproportionate emotional reaction because your brain views the outgroup as a threat to your status and belonging. If you lose your group, historically, you die. That's why a tweet can make your palms sweat. Your DNA remembers a time when being excluded from the tribe was a death sentence. You're not overreacting, you're surviving. But there is a darker, more fascinating reason your brain stays locked into this loop. It's not just that you dislike the other side. It's that your brain is actually syncing up with yours. Scientists have discovered a phenomenon called neural synchrony. It means that when you and your friends watch the same political clip, your brains literally begin to fire in the same patterns at the same time. You aren't just sharing an opinion, you are sharing a biological state. And once you're in sync, it becomes almost impossible to see the world any other way. Let's look at how the data proves your brain is literally locking onto a story. Neural synchrony refers to how similarly different people's brains respond to the same stimulus over time. When you share an ideology with someone, your brain activity patterns while processing political words or narratives become mirrors of each other. This is especially true in the regions of the brain involved in meaning and emotion. A study published in the journal Science found that people with similar political views show more synchronized activity in higher-order cortical regions. These are the areas that integrate language and social meaning. It means that shared ideology shapes your very interpretation of reality, not just your raw perception. You literally see the truth differently. Here is the most telling part of the data. Extreme partisans, whether they are on the far left or the far right, show nearly identical neural signatures. Both groups show heightened responses in emotion-related areas when exposed to politically charged material. It doesn't matter what the content is, it matters how much you care about it. This synchrony brings like-minded viewers' brains into a shared rhythm. It reinforces the sense that your side sees the truth, and the other side is either insane or evil. When you feel that click of agreement, it's not just logic, it's a biological harmony with millions of other people. It's the ultimate feeling of belonging. We often hear that the amygdala is the brain's fear center, but that's a bit of an oversimplification. In the context of your political rage, the amygdala is better understood as a rapid relevance detector. Its job is to flag things in your environment that signal threat, opportunity, or intense social meaning. Political stimuli light up this system like a Christmas tree for anyone who cares about the issues. In fMRI scans, people who are highly interested in politics show greater amygdala activation even when they are agreeing with a statement. This means your brain is on high alert, treating politics as a high-stakes, emotionally charged arena where every word matters for your social survival. The amygdala doesn't care if the stimulus is a tiger, a rival sports fan, or a nasty comment on Reddit. Its job is to prioritize what looks like a socially or physically consequential threat. If you find yourself getting worked up over a debate, it's because your relevance detector has decided this is consequential. This is why some people can ignore politics entirely, while others feel it in their bones. It's not about being smarter or more informed. It's about how your brain has been trained to flag these symbols. According to the Journal of Neuroscience, the intensity of your engagement, not your specific ideology, is what drives this response. You aren't hateful. You are engaged. You are tuned in. How does a simple disagreement become a feeling of danger? Online, a short, emotionally loaded message from the other side compresses several threat cues into one tiny package: moral violation, status challenge, and group conflict. When you see a post that attacks your values, your brain treats it as a confrontation effect. Research on social media behavior shows that exposure to opposing views elicits genuine anger and anxiety, especially when we can identify a clear offending source. This negative emotion then predicts avoidance behaviors, like unfriending or retreating into echo chambers. Your brain is trying to protect you from the toxin of the opposing view. Most people think of anger as a negative, destructive force. But psychologically, anger is an approach-oriented emotion. It's designed to prepare the body to confront and correct a perceived injustice. When a political tweet feels like a personal insult, anger recruits the same basic circuits that would prepare you for a physical fight. This is why you feel the urge to comment, to ratio someone, or to share their post with a biting caption. You are subconsciously trying to regulate your own negative emotion by pushing back. The data shows that after people confront a post they hate, their reported outrage actually decreases. Engagement is your brain's way of self-medicating. This brings us to a shocking realization. Your brain might actually be addicted to the outrage. If engagement lowers your stress, then the loop is set. You seek out the thing that makes you angry, just so you can feel the relief of fighting back. This is what we call the confrontation effect, and it's the engine behind why you click on things you know will upset you. You aren't being a glutton for punishment. You are seeking a specific neurological release. And the platforms we use? They know this better than anyone. They've built a world where your amygdala is the primary customer, and your logic is just an afterthought. New work published in Psychology Today and elsewhere shows that people are sometimes 4 times more likely to interact with content they disagree with compared to content that aligns with their ideology. Think about that. We claim to want positive spaces, but our behaviour shows we crave the confrontation. Posts framed as "we must stop them" generate significantly more engagement than purely informational posts. This creates a self-reinforcing loop. The more upset you get, the more you engage. The more you engage, the more the algorithm shows you that exact content. It keeps your amygdala on high alert and stabilizes that polarized neural synchrony we talked about. It's a feedback loop designed for a brain on fire. From a cold computational perspective, your brain is not primarily trying to stay informed when you scroll. It is trying to protect 3 things: status, belonging, and safety. In our modern world, political tribes have become proxies for all 3. When you see a partisan cue, a flag, a candidate's face, a specific hashtag, your brain instantly activates group identity networks. It pre-sorts the information into us or them long before your conscious reasoning catches up. This is a hijack. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that can handle nuance and complexity, is forced to operate under a massive emotional load. You aren't thinking, you're pattern matching for survival. Have you ever noticed how good it feels to be right? Not just factually right, but morally right. This is the other half of the rage loop. Affective polarization is sustained by the emotional rewards of belonging to a morally righteous in-group. When politics becomes sacred, compromise feels like betrayal. Research suggests that strong partisan identity provides a sense of meaning and community that is often missing in other parts of modern life. If you feel like your neighbourhood, your job, or your local community is disconnected, your political tribe fills that void. It's not just an opinion, it's a home. And you will defend your home with everything you have. The likes, the shares, and the supportive comments you get when you express outrage are more than just digital numbers. In neurological terms, they are immediate social reinforcement. Expressing anger at the outgroup earns you status within your in-group. This strengthens the learned association between outrage and reward. It's the same mechanism used to train lab rats, and it's incredibly effective at shaping human behaviour. Over time, this loop feels more compelling than dry, balanced information. Facts don't give you a dopamine hit. A snappy comeback that gets 50 likes does. You aren't shallow for liking the attention. You are wired to seek social validation as a metric of safety. It's important to realise that your brain isn't broken. Large sample neuroimaging studies have tried to find a liberal brain or a conservative brain. While they find modest correlations, like slight differences in amygdala size, these links are often complex and hard to replicate. What is consistent is how any brain reacts to high conflict environments. If you put a human brain in a low-stakes, calm environment, it treats politics like a distant game of ideas. But if you put that same brain in a high-conflict, status-loaded media ecosystem, it treats politics like a life or death struggle. It's not your ideology that's the problem. It's the environment that's weaponizing your biology. Social media platforms are essentially massive experiments in affective polarization. Algorithms optimize for engagement, And as we've seen, engagement is boosted by threat-related emotions like anger and moral disgust. Short-form posts strip away all the nuance and context that might calm your amygdala, leaving only the triggers. These platforms use variable ratio reinforcement schedules, the same thing that makes slot machines addictive. You never know which scroll will bring the win of a supportive comment or the threat of an opposing view. This keeps you in a state of optimal arousal, where you are most likely to react and least likely to reflect. It's a design choice, not an accident. So, is there a way out? Or are we destined to be rage-fueled puppets of our own biology? The data suggests that because this is a learned loop, it can be unlearned. But it requires something the modern world hates: slowing down. Awareness is the first step, but the second step is changing the diet of your brain. We need to find ways to signal safety to our amygdala, so our prefrontal cortex can take the wheel again. This isn't just about being nice. It's about regaining your cognitive autonomy. Let's look at the practical, data-backed ways to step out of the trap, and why doing so actually makes you more powerful, not less. Research shows that slowing exposure is one of the most effective ways to reduce affective polarization. When you consume long-form, context-rich content, like a deep dive essay or a long documentary, your brain moves from reactive mode to analytical mode. Rapid-fire, decontextualized posts are designed to hit your amygdala. Longer content engages the prefrontal regions responsible for nuance. By deliberately choosing to read a full article instead of just the headline and the comments, you are performing a neurological reset. You are telling your brain, there is no predator here, we have time to think. This simple shift can lower your baseline cortisol and make you less susceptible to the rage loop. Another powerful lever is the use of cross-cutting identities. Affective polarization thrives when political party is your only identity. But when you emphasize other non-political identities, like being a neighbor, a parent, a hobbyist, or a fan of a specific sports team, the us versus them walls start to crumble. In studies, when people were reminded of their shared identity as fans of the same team, their partisan hostility decreased significantly. Your brain is capable of holding multiple us categories at once. By broadening your identity, you reduce the power of any single them to feel like an existential threat. This isn't about ignoring politics. It's about remembering that politics is only one small part of who you are. Look at the list of things you disagree with the other side about. Which of them are truly sacred moral battles, and which are just negotiable preferences? The modern media landscape tries to turn everything into a sacred battle, because that generates the most clicks. But when you demoralize non-core issues, you reduce the fuel for the rage loop. Treating a disagreement over infrastructure spending as a negotiable preference, rather than a battle for the soul of the nation, changes how your brain processes the information. It turns an attack into a problem to be solved. This doesn't make you weak, it makes you an effective strategist. You save your emotional energy for the battles that truly matter. At the individual level, the simplest and most powerful tool you have is the pause. When you feel that heat in your chest, the signal of a triggered amygdala, wait. Just 30 seconds. That is often all the time the prefrontal cortex needs to catch up and ask, is this a threat or just a tweet? Research from the American Psychological Association suggests that prompting yourself to think about why someone might have posted something, rather than just what they posted, can reduce automatic predator tagging. It forces your brain to engage in mentalizing, which is the opposite of othering. You are reclaiming the driver's seat from a biological reflex that evolved for a world that no longer exists. Just as our brains can sync up in rage, they can also sync up in connection. When we have calm, face-to-face conversations with people we disagree with, our neural synchrony shifts. We begin to mirror their non-verbal cues, their tone, and eventually their shared humanity. This is why it's so much harder to be mean to someone in person than it is online. Online, the other is just a profile picture and a snippet of text, a perfect canvas for your brain to project its fears onto. In person, they are a biological reality. The data proves that intergroup contact, real human interaction, remains the most effective antidote to polarization. It literally rewires the brain's response to the other. There is also a growing movement for platform tweaks, small design changes that could save our collective sanity. Imagine a social media feed that didn't show the number of likes or shares until after you read the post. Or a prompt that asks, "Are you sure you want to share this?" when the algorithm detects high levels of outrage. These small nudges help move users toward less reactive patterns. The science of human-centered design is starting to realize that optimizing for engagement is the same as optimizing for rage. By prioritizing calm technology, we could create digital spaces that respect our biological limits rather than exploiting them for profit. You aren't the problem, the interface is. Here is the high-performance advantage I promised you. When you step out of the rage loop, you don't become passive. You become dangerous in a different way. You become a person who can see the whole board. While everyone else is reacting to the latest shiny object, you are analyzing the long-term trends. While everyone else is exhausted by outrage fatigue, you have your energy intact. Deep engagement with reality, not the pixelated, angry version of it, is a competitive advantage in a world built on distraction. You are built for depth, for complex social structures, and for nuanced thought. Don't let a 280-character post rob you of that birthright. The world wants you to believe you are broken. They want you to believe you are part of the problem if you feel angry, or apathetic if you don't. But the data shows something much more empathetic. You are a human being with a brain that is trying its best to keep you safe in an environment it doesn't understand. Your political rage isn't a sign of a bad character. It's a sign of a deep, ancient need for belonging and protection. When you encounter that opposing tweet, your brain is actively scanning for tribal meaning using the same machinery that evolved to detect physical threats. You aren't toxic. You are a survival machine on autopilot. And the moment you realize that, the autopilot loses its power over you. So, the next time your heart starts to race as you scroll, take a breath and notice what's happening. Say to yourself, "My amygdala is flagging this as a threat. My brain is trying to keep me safe." This simple act of observing, rather than being the emotion, breaks the circuit. You are not your outrage. You are the observer of it. You are wired for depth, for connection, and for a type of wisdom that goes far beyond us versus them. The world is built for the average reaction, but you were built for something much deeper. Stay observant, stay analytical, and most importantly, remember, you are not broken. You are just being hijacked. And now, you know how to take back the controls. If this resonates with you, if you're tired of the loop and want to understand the machinery behind your own mind, then you've found your people. We don't do surface level here. We look at the data because the truth is the only thing that actually sets the amygdala at ease. Join us as we explore the unique wiring that makes you who you are. Subscribe to Tom Talks Mind, and let's figure out how to be human in a world designed for bots. To wrap this up, remember the predator in the screen metaphor. Every time you see that outgroup content, it's a digital ghost of a physical threat. Your brain treats the opposing party like a rival tribe coming for your food and your family. But they aren't in the room. They are lines of code on a server in California. By recognizing the mismatch between our ancestral wiring and our modern environment, we can finally stop the bleeding. You are a biological marvel, capable of incredible cooperation. Don't let the confrontation effect convince you otherwise. You are much more than your political label.
Your next scroll is coming. Maybe in 5 minutes. Maybe tonight.
When it happens, remember the data. Remember the neural synchrony. Remember the amygdala. And then, do the most rebellious thing you can do in a polarized world. Put the phone down, look at a real human being, and remember that you are both more than the rage you've been sold. You aren't broken, you're just beginning to see. I'm Tom, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.